All right, Dave, do I have surprise on the bandits?
Yeah, Ted, I guess. I mean, they weren't expecting you to sneak into their camp.
Excellent. So I cast my spell and I attack 5 of the bandits. Since they haven't gone yet, I have advantage on the roll. And since I'm an elf with elven accuracy, I roll 3d20s instead of 2.
All right, roll attacks and damage.
All right, that is going to be nothing under a 16.
They're all hits. What's your damage?
All right, that's going to be 66 damage per bandit for a total of 330 points of damage.
Whoa, what?
Well, Dave, let me tell you about the Spell Assassin D&D build.
Welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds, by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I'm joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Don't be surprised by missed D&D videos. Hit that subscribe button instead.
There's more Nerdarchy videos you're after, then you're going to have to murder that notification bell.
So before we jump in the video, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, our favorite map making tool, and that is Dungeon Fog. It is just a great website where you can go on there, sign up for a subscription or sign up for the free subscription, try it out, and start making maps, gorgeous, beautiful maps that you're going to be able to drop right into your own games and use them. You can export them to use on your favorite VTT, or you can even use it as a mini VTT itself. You can put tokens on there. You can use the Fog of War. You can, give people access to those tokens. So I found it a great asset in my own games. I'm really enjoying using it, and it makes me feel like I'm a kid again, drawing on graph paper, making these fantastic maps that are more beautiful than anything I could have ever drawn before.
And if that's, not exactly your cup of tea, starting from scratch, there's already a whole library full of ready-made maps that you can go and just, peruse and use, or, use them as, step one of building out your own maps.
All right, so we're going to do a character build, not one of our character build guides where we go through the whole entire progression, but if you would like to see this done in that fashion, let us know. We're going to kind of go with the high concept here. And that is a spell assassin. So the interesting thing about, the assassin in 5e D&D, their core ability, assassinate, doesn't actually work with their sneak attack, right? In a sense, it's divorced from it. It can work with it, but it doesn't have the same stipulations of sneak attack. If an assassin goes before you do, they have advantage on attacks against you. If you have the surprising condition and they attack you, those attacks are considered a crit. So that means for anything they would actually make a roll for, as long as they can get that surprise off, it's a crit. So this is one of the few instances where we can combine those abilities from the rogue with spellcasting. Absolutely.
And I've played an assassin. I've taken them to 15th level. I paired it with Ranger to make my crazy build, and he did quite a crap ton of damage with that ability. But when you begin looking at all of the aspects of how you can combine that with, there's a lot of fun things that are out there, and it's not the only thing that's going to cause you to have extra damage.
It's not, and so I wasn't thinking of it originally, but I'm like, Path of the Grave, their second level channel divinity gives vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that they're going to take double damage. So now if you combine that with that assassinate ability, that's a ×4. It's going to be kind of hard to pull off though. But I did think of some ways that make it easier to pull off with being a spellcaster.
And in the example that we had in the beginning, that was almost required that you need to have, some hefty amount of spell power in order to cast the spell that he used for that intro bit.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? If you're a spellcaster, and more than likely we're talking wizard, sorcerer, for the most part, you can have invisibility. So the great thing about invisibility is it would allow you to get the drop on your enemies. And if the first thing you do is Path of the Grave, that doesn't end your invisibility. It is not an attack and it is not a spell.
Correct.
Right? So you would be able to use that and then on your next turn hit them with Assassinate with whatever spell you're going to use. Now they're only going to have vulnerability for that first attack. Right. And so there's some things to get into for that. Now, if you wanted to further add to that, you could take 2 levels of fighter and get action surge, so you could do it all in the same round.
And you could technically, if you're talking about going with the example in the beginning where you've got elven accuracy and what have you, you might as well go for one more and take champion, get that extra crit range. But that's just pushing things a little bit further.
Yeah, well, the only thing with that is right now we're at a 7th level character, and if you want to add levels for spellcasting,
right,
and be able to really get that, and so here's the difference, right? With just the assassinate ability, it doesn't matter how many attack rolls you make, because if they hit, they're all going to be crits.
Right.
With adding Path of the Grave, you actually need a big boom effect, right, where you hit them once with it,
right,
and then they're going to get a double. And so inflict wounds is kind of like a great spell for that, because it starts with decent damage as a 1st level spell, and then you can keep pumping it up by a D10. So it starts at a 3d10, and then you can add a D10. So that can get pretty nasty, but it's going to be difficult. I also feel like I need to bring up kind of where the inspiration for this video came from.
That was going to be my next question: is where's the origin story here, man?
So we had Treantmonk on the Nerdarchy live channel. Unfortunately, we had a glitch with the channel and it's not up anymore. Rip. We'll have to have him on again. It was a great conversation, and he had mentioned using Assassinate with Steelwind Strike. Steelwind Strike is one of my favorite spells. I mean, it does 60-10 damage to 5 different targets. It requires an attack roll. It's force damage. And, if you surprise and were able to do that, you could do a lot of damage with it. It provided that you hit. We discussed some ways to make it easier to hit in doing that. But also though, as great as it is, it's actually kind of hard to pull off, because you got to be a fairly high level character in order to do it. I mean, you need 3 levels of rogue, and then you're going to need another 9 levels or so of a casting, right? And that's without that's just Assassinate, Steelwind Strike. That's not we want to do these other cool things as well.
All right, but that's still 12 levels. That gives you 8 more levels to play with. You could easily add in the 2 for cleric and the 2 for fighter, and still have some room to play.
Now, that being said, right, so we kind of discussed multiple attacks versus single attacks. And if you were messing around with that Path of the Grave, you want that single attack that just does a lot of damage. If not, you just need things that give you attack rolls. So you could go either way. So for our ranged spells, there's about 6 cantrips that are all attack rolls that are going to work for you. And of those 6, one of them being Eldritch Blast. That Eldritch Blast, as you progress in level, instead of it just doing more damage, you get more attacks.
Which that in and of itself, is great, because it allows you to spread things out against multiple targets, or completely against one, whatever the situation demands. So there's definitely a lot of uses there to couple that with that. But in order to grab that one, that is exclusively Warlock.
Yeah, well, this build does work with Warlock pretty easily as well. It's just another spellcaster. But that being said, too, because if you were to go the Warlock route, you get things like Agonizing Blast, so that increases your damage. Also, Hex. Well, if you're hitting with each hit for Eldritch Blast would be 2d10 plus 2d6, right? So you're doing decent damage that way. But now if we go into other ranged spells, I found 14 different ones, and there's 3 of them I want to point out. You have Chaos Bolt. It's a 1st level spell. You have a chance of it hitting another creature and bouncing. I wouldn't bank on that one. I'm just, but you do have the option.
Yep.
If you allow content from Acquisitions Inc., there is the Jim's Magic Missile. It's only a 1st level spell. Instead of hitting automatically, you make attack rolls. It does a little bit more damage. So this means you're going to be able to pull this combo off even sooner. So by the time at 4th level, you would be able to hit these combos without any trouble. The next one I really like is Scorching Ray, because it's only a 2nd level spell. So at 6th level, you can pull off this combo. And the great thing about Scorching Ray, Ted?
3 attacks, does fire damage.
Yeah, you get 3 rays, but then you can bump it up to get an additional ray each time. So, and every time you hit, every one of those rays is going to be a crit.
I'm very fond of Scorching Ray myself. I definitely see how it works here. That pumpable effect is very, very useful, for this particular build. Again, making more rolls, means you've got more chances of either spreading out the damage or really laying it on thick. Rather than having one attack that does 6d6 damage, you've got 3 things that do 2d6, potentially doubling all of that.
So next up, we've got spells that require melee attacks. There's 6 cantrips. So we're up to 12 cantrips to kind of choose from and how you want to do it. There's about 10 spells, and there's a couple that are really worth pointing out. And one of them that it's not so much the damage. The damage is good, right? The best part, right? Vampiric touch. Right? Half the damage you do, you heal. So, if we're talking about hitting something and then doing a ton of damage while getting half of that and hit points back. Now, it might not be as useful in the first round of combat.
Yeah. I was just about to point that out of unless you've had a really bad fight.
You've been having a bad day. This is the perfect combo.
But it is incredibly nice. And if you're gonna couple all of this, you've got an assassin caster. You gotta throw in greater invisibility into the mix. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that is great because being invisible, to begin with, just helps you be able to get this stuff off. And a lot of the spells we're looking at aren't concentration spells anyway. So.
Correct. And then as we mentioned, in that beginning example, as you mentioned, it's one of your favorite spells, Steel Wind Strike, essentially allowing you to attack 5 targets in a single turn. It does a crap ton amount of damage, so it is a 5th level spell, so it is up there. You have to be a 12th level caster to do it, or a 12th level, character to pull off the assassin and this spell together. Definitely a lot of fun. As you can see, it can do a crap ton of damage, spread out if used in the correct manner. All right, so that was it. Steel Wind Strike, Vampiric Touch, 2 awesome spells that can be used with this assassinate combo. I am certain down below
there's actually a bunch of other spells too.
That's what I was gonna say.
That are really
I was gonna say I'm certain that down below you're gonna find people chiming in with their favorite spells that they would use with this particular combination. We just wanted to point out some that were our favorites, things that were gonna be a lot of fun. But that's a lot of spell power, a lot of things that you can use. I saw when Dave was talking to Treantmonk about this, and I knew this video was going to be a coming, and my question is which campaign is it going to happen in first? Dave's game or my game? Because I know it's going to happen at some point in time, because it's just ugly and amazing at the same time.
I haven't played an assassin yet, so maybe let us know. Do you want us to do an actual character build guide for this? Where we put it up on the DM's Guild for Pay What You Want, and then you can take a look at it, and we do the character sheet and the whole rigmarole in the comments below. If you would like to see that, let us know. This isn't the only video where we talk about multiclassing. Get more with the best level dips for your D&D multiclassing in 5e.
Speaking of getting more, you can get more from Nerdarchy by joining us over on Patreon.
That's right, over on Patreon, we do monthly fan games, giveaways that our patrons are automatically entered in, and more.
So until next time, stay nerdy.